What's up? I'm Big Bob. Welcome to the newest episode of Big Bob's What's Up? We have a special guest today. We'll get to him in a second. First, we give a very big applaud to our executive producer, Brenda Ringwood. Not only is she the executive producer, but she's also the founder of Becoming the Better View, which is a foundation and charity that I am deeply involved in and committed to, and someday you will also. Today's guest, I have no idea what he does, but he's a good-looking, charming, take charge type of guy, Ryan Anderson. How you doing, brother?
Fantastic. Thank
What do
you
you
for
do?
having me. Well, it's the best known, best kept secret in the world right there.
I'm sorry. What do you do?
So I owned a home automation company for years, smart homes in the ultra luxury segment.
Smart homes.
Smart homes.
So is that like electronic things, do automatic things for you?
Yep. So, the definition of a smart home is pretty gray, where no one's properly defined it. But effectively, it's anything from, a Ring doorbell to motorized shades, automated lights. But in the ultra luxury segment, much, much, much larger homes and a very large ecosystem of products communicating with each other.
I don't want you to name drop, but could you name drop if you had to?
So I actually had a fun one. Jeff Bezos, we did his house, and we were
I've heard of him.
We were under NDA where we couldn't mention him as a client. And then CNN did a big story on a house he was building, and we had 8 of our vans in his driveway. So then the NDA changed too. We can't talk about what products are in there or how much he spent. But so there's one for you.
What products did you get?
See, you try and trip me up. Trip me up.
How much did you spend? Okay. So not what he got, but what is some of the more unusual products that lay people probably don't even know exist?
The worse you are with technology, the better we were for you, because remember back in the day when you'd have your coffee table and you have a remote for your VCR, remote for your CD player, remote for your surround sound receiver, remote for your TV.
I'm old enough to remember that.
And
I'm old enough to remember before there was any clickers.
And then somebody came along and sold you a smart remote that basically did all of those things, right? Okay. And if it was super smart, you could have a button that says watch TV, and it was programmed to turn on the cable box, turn on the TV, do everything set up, right? So that's the same thing we're living in today, except instead of different remotes on the coffee table, you have different apps on your phone. You have a front doorbell app, you have a garage door app, you have a lighting app, a shades app, you might have an alarm system app.
Are you the highly technical guy in your company, or did you have to hire techie people to work for you?
So the quick and dirty is that we do one app that houses everything. So you have one username and password, and it talks to all of your different subsystems, kind of like the universal remote.
Wow.
When I first started the company, I was the techie one that did everything. And the only way the company could grow is if it wasn't limited to my brain power.
All right. So how many employees were you when you were the biggest you were? How many employees?
350.
Wow.
Across 15 cities.
Wow. That's impressive. Did you sell the company? What happened?
Yep. So sold the company to private equity, and then ran it as CEO for a couple of years per contract, and then stuck around to help transition the private equity firm's CEO.
Right. You seem to be mid-40s.
Yep.
Okay. How did you accomplish all of this in such a young? I mean, did you start when you were 18?
Yeah. I mean, the tech world moves fast, right?
Right.
So just got to keep up with it. But
where did you go to school?
Shawnee Mission West, and then University of Kansas.
That explains a lot. University of Kansas is such a great university.
It's fantastic.
Good basketball too. So What did you study?
Studied communications with a minor in psychology.
Were you a ball player?
I was not.
You look like you could have been an offensive guard.
Yeah, I was overgrown, but didn't have the chance to play sports. So,
What year were you there?
2003.
All right. Geez, you were so young.
Well, I actually took a few years off between high school and college because we didn't have the money to go to college. So I actually went into the workforce, and then
You were living the American dream. I mean, didn't come from money, didn't have full rides, didn't have a pampered childhood. What did you do after college? Let's put this in the right perspectives.
so college or high school.
Okay, you
Because
were.
I think it's kind of interesting. High school, was going to JUCO, and then I got a job at Best Buy and worked my way up from cashier to customer service, then tech, then ran the tech, then actual
Well,
stuff.
you're in high school.
This was 18, right after high
18
school.
years old. You're running the techie division of Best Buy.
Well, the regional tech division, but then one of the things happened that was interesting. As I was working there, people were returning computers, and the computers were, defective or broken, and they were piling up.
And instead of throwing them away,
Well, here's the thing: there was nothing wrong with them. The hard drives were full, or they were out of memory. But back then, the customers didn't understand that. They just knew the computers were having errors and stopped running.
right?
So they bring them back and say they were defective.
Right.
And some people knew how to play the game because they had 2-year warranties. Packard Bells, IBMs, Gateways, they had a 2-year warranty. So about month 21, 22, somebody would bring their computer back and say it's broken, and they would get $2,500 credit,
Right.
right? And then just upgrade.
Wait. What happened to the old ones?
Well, they would just throw them away.
That sounds like a waste.
So
An opportunity for somebody.
Well, what I ended up noticing was that a lot of these people were very upset because they had all their files, they weren't backed up,
Right.
And I was like, well, your hard drive's full. This isn't a problem. So it just so happened the store I worked at was connected to the regional office. And I went and did something you're never supposed to do, which is I walked between the golden door, between the store to where the offices were. Right. And I told them that this problem was existing. And somebody actually listened. And so they said, what should we do about it? And I said, we sell hard drives, we sell memory, we sell all these things. We should, if a customer comes in, the computer's broken, we should take a look at it. And if it's not broken, it just needs an upgrade, we should sell them that upgrade. So they said, okay. So, I said also VCRs are getting returned when it's just dirty heads. CD players are getting returned when it's just dirty lasers. So we put together a board of services that we offered. Right. And those services, and then we ended up selling upgrades and taking care of things instead of returning.
Wait, you're a $14 an hour kid.
Oh,
giving them a
probably $8 back then, right?
Giving them a multi-million-dollar business concept, and they give you a nice pat on the back and say, "Well done."
Well, that's well. Actually, they flew the guys down from Minneapolis corporate to meet with me and look at everything we were doing. And then they implemented that system across the stores across the country.
Multi-million-dollar idea.
So it ended up pretty good. But what came out of that is there was another startup happening here in Kansas City. And they heard about it. And so they reached out to me and offered me a job. And I think I was probably just turned 19. And it was a long distance company called Sprint that was starting a wireless division. Really? So I took a job with Sprint Spectrum, which then eventually became Sprint PCS.
And they paid you all in stock options.
Yeah, right. I was so elated to have a salary. It didn't and a 40-hour week job. Like I didn't even understand what was happening to me. And I'm pretty sure they offered me benefits, and I didn't understand the concept of that. So I probably said,
I got to believe if they asked you to work 40, you were working 60.
I got to be honest with you. I would have, but it was kind of a 40-hour environment. There wasn't a lot to, couldn't really get into the building beyond the hours they were allowing me in and out, but ended up an engineer for Sprint. And then once they became a big company and they had an HR division, I looked at all the different job postings, and you had to have a degree.
You know, you might be one of the very few engineers I've ever met that has a personality.
I know the other one. His
Really?
name's Jeff. Great guy. You would love him.
I mean, most of you engineers are just dry toast.
I think there's can be something to be said for that, but I think I've met a lot who are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, takes one to know one, of course. But anyways.
But I think that was my secret sauce, is being able to bridge the gap between
technology
engineers and
people.
motivating people, being able to explain to the customer what they're buying, be able to explain to the rest of the staff how to sell it and motivate it.
I would have sworn, because we've had lunch together, we've had a couple of short conversations, that you were one of the most natural born salespeople with a big charismatic personality I've ever met. I would never have thought that you have an engineering degree and that's your background is high tech. It just would never have crossed my mind. That's a dangerous combination.
So I actually tried to take a sales job at one point in my life, and failed miserably because it was selling windows to people who didn't need them. I mean, there's plenty of people who need windows, but this was, you get a lead, you go knock on the door and talk to them that you're interested in windows. And it was a bad gig because I actually can't sell. All I can do is express passion.
So I've been accused of being a salesman. And I say all the time, I've said it hundreds of times, I can't sell ice to an Eskimo because I don't believe Eskimos need the ice.
Right. Same.
I can only sell what I believe in and what I have a passion for and what something I think you want, need, or got to have. If you don't want, need, or got to have it, I don't want to sell it to you.
Correct. Same.
Okay. So how long were you with Sprint?
Probably 2 to 3 years, something like that. 2
Before,
years
before the campus.
Yeah. Oh, way before the campus. Oh,
Way
yeah.
before the
Yep.
campus. All right. Why did you leave Sprint? Nice security, big check, right?
So
were you married at the time?
Not married at the time.
Oh, wow.
At the time,
Wow. You were dangerous. You were dangerous.
well, I also hadn't come into my own.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I was.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
You were shy.
very, very shy, very timid, very nervous,
Right.
very
Right.
self-conscious about every aspect of my life.
Uh-huh.
So, but
I've always said success begets an awful lot of self-confidence. And
Correct.
with that self-confidence, you become more successful.
correct.
And the more successful you are, the more confident you are. And it's a vicious circle of how you get to the top is success, confidence, success, confidence.
You're 100% right. Once you have some traction.
Right. Once you know where you're going.
Yep.
Once you put the ladder up against the right wall, and you know it's the right wall, you climb to the top. Easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You leave Sprint.
So I would look at the job postings and every possible career advancement, even sideways, downward moves required a degree, and I didn't have one.
Okay.
So,
Couldn't you lie?
it didn't occur to me.
Oops.
But one of the fun stories that I had from back in the day that ended up my next move, right, was a guy came in and, he came in and because I started before the stores were opened, and then eventually the stores were open and I worked out of one of the stores. And so everybody was, oh God, Mike's here again. Mike is here, and, grumblings. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy just beats us up and just trying to get money off his bill and everything like that. I'm like, all right, well, I'm just curious, right? So I kind of go out there and I listen. This guy's got a spiral notebook and he's written down every drop call, where exactly he was, what time of day.
No shit.
And I'm like, and the bill's like $120. He wants $40 off. I'm like, do you know how much we pay engineers to drive around the city and look for these dead spots in the network and try and find and this guy wants $40 for a month's worth of
driving
around and logging everything. And I was like, hey buddy, how about I just give you a free phone and you don't have to pay a bill anymore? And and just keep bringing me these notes. And he was like, that's great. And I was like, does your wife want to do that too? I'll give her a phone. And he goes, she will if you give her a phone. I'm like, here it is.
Right.
And so I ended up just getting just tons of notes. And as he would come in.
Brilliant. Wait a second. That's a second brilliant. How old were you at the time?
19.
That's 20. Two brilliant, absolutely game-changing moves you made before you're 19 years old. First with the computers at Best Buy, now with getting the Rome guide to give you free information and not pay three guys $40,000 a year. Brilliant.
So here's
did you get credit for this? I mean, does anybody just stand up and acknowledge?
You get good at your job, right? You get credit for that.
Okay.
But let me ask you this. Let me fire a question back at you, right? What's the difference between brilliance and observation, right? Because Jerry Seinfeld is an observational comic, but he's brilliant. But all he's doing is observing things, right? If you walk into a place and the front entry, the flooring looks absolutely terrible and it's disgusting, and you go, if you did this, your customer would feel completely different when they walk through that door. Is that brilliant? Is that observation? What is that?
It's a combination of being confident enough to make a presentation on the spur of the moment because you see somebody with a need.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not walking into an office building or a bank and saying, here's my card. If you need new flooring, give me a shout out. That's one salesman. But the other salesman who walks in there and looks at dirty floor or worn out floor said, you guys desperately need new flooring. I'd like to give you a bid. That's a salesman I want to be. That's a salesman I like to have working with me.
See, you already violated your own terminology right there, because that's not a salesperson. That's a problem solver.
Okay, then.
Right?
Right.
That's how you and I view sales, is solving problems.
Want, need, gotta have.
To me, sales sort of feels like, talking someone into something they may or may not need. But for you and I,
see, selling is, I don't want to sell you what I have. I want to sell you what you think you need, but what I think will work better for you on what you described your needs to be. Not what you want, but what you need to solve the problems you have. And if I don't have it, I'm not going to sell you something I have to fill it. I'm going to tell you, I don't have what you're looking for. And now I can see the next story, or the story afterwards, about the smart home, why you were so successful at it, because you went in there and said, these are the things available. What do you think you want? What do you need? What do you got to have? And we'll supply it for you. And
so Brenda's brilliant, right? She can edit this out later if it's not interesting, if it doesn't become interesting. But here we have a moment, you and I, where we could say we're going to bifurcate the term sales into two different terms. One that has a positive connotation that addresses needs and solves problems, and one that has the negative connotation that is the harassing, right?
Sales. Hold on.
So we need two terms.
Okay. Being attentive without being intrusive.
Yes, I love that.
Right? I mean, that's what we try to teach our people here, to be attentive but not be intrusive. And it's different for each individual. Some people don't want to be this close to you, that they feel intimidated if you're in their space. Some people don't want you to talk about their family or their house, or they just want to go in there, find something and walk away. They don't want to have a relationship with a stranger. Some people want to buy only from friends and want to become a good friend before they make a purchase. We have to be flexible. We can't ask them to change who they are. We have to be the ones who are flexible and change to what works best for them, being attentive without being intrusive. Now, you put sales in two words. I use manipulation as two words also. Manipulation has a good connotation. It has a ugly connotation.
Yep.
If I manipulate you for your benefit, is that good or bad? See,
or manipulating an object to fit properly.
Right. I believe in manipulation as long as it's not self-serving. if I can manipulate you to do something that's good for you, maybe okay for me, but basically good for you, whether that's salesmanship or manipulation, semantics, I think it's a good thing. I hate being manipulated. If I can see it happen, I don't like it. But if you can manipulate me for my own good without me noticing it, like most of the women in my life, that's a good thing. Manipulation's okay, even though it has an ugly connotation one way and an okay connotation another way. The same with sales.
I don't know why this visual pops into mind when you tell that story, but I think of the hardware store when you go get a copy of a key made, right? And they have this blank key and they stick it in there. And what an awful, painful process for that key to go through to make that change, right? Literally grinding away at it. And then now that key has gone from sitting on a shelf doing nothing to having a very important purpose in life.
That's not
manipulation.
That's not the first time you thought of that.
It is 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Brilliant. You're a smart guy.
I've heard of a similar analogy. There's a religious song that talks about the nail being formed that ends up being in the cross, right?
Okay.
And that nail being forged in steel doesn't know what it's
being used for.
I would say 100% that key is just something I thought of on the spot.
Right.
But I would say there's probably a background genesis, unintended, to how the story entered my brain. Because the concept I've heard before used differently somewhere else.
Let's go back to Sprint. So you leave Sprint. What happens next?
These get edited, right? They aren't straight through?
No,
they're straight through? This is fantastic.
You can't use MF, though. You can't say MF. Stop blushing. So anyways, what happens after Sprint?
So the guy that was annoying everyone comes in and he's wearing,
Right.
And he's wearing a shirt and it's got the name of a stereo company on it. And I was a geek who subscribed to the magazines and liked stereos. And so I asked him about it, and it turns out that he's a rep and sells that stuff. And, I thought that was pretty cool. And so I bought some stuff from him and learned more about what he did. And when I decided I want to go back to college, I learned that I could sell and install and program and design some of these home theater type systems.
Out of his shop or out of your basement?
Out of his shop.
Okay. So you became a subcontractor or employee?
Hourly employee.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think I got paid like a subcontractor.
You were going
stipulations are done. I don't know if I paid taxes correctly. I think I did. I always tried to.
Okay. So the IRS is not lucky. So you'd go into a guy's house, into his basement. It's an unfinished basement. And you said, I can turn this little area into paradise for you.
I wasn't that sophisticated.
Okay.
What I did was talk about the different things that I'm doing. And when somebody would say, oh, that sounds cool. Like, I want a big screen. I want a home theater. I want surround sound. I knew enough to go to their house, look at their situation and pull the right products and match it all up, find the right price point, find the right budget and present it.
All right. How long did that last? You did that all through college?
Did that through college and then ended up getting hired. There were some more transition moments, but the quick and dirty getting hired by BrandSmart. And then
BrandSmart.
It was a 5-store.
Okay.
There's a 5-store chain that did car stereos, home stereos, everything. And they were trying to learn custom installation, which was the move where it's not just about dropping the big screen off and plugging it in and hooking it up to the cable box, but people are wanting the wires run inside the wall and speakers hidden and cutting into the walls and mounting in-wall speakers in and more advanced systems. And so I helped take them to that level and became vice president.
Okay. And you're now 24.
And I think that's 23, 24.
Right.
Yep. So I'm going to college and then, but working and then going to college. My friends who I spent my college years with they talk about how I would get to the bars at 11 or 11:30 when I was done with work, and they've already started drinking at 6, and I'm playing catch up.
No, see, I stopped being a power drinker somewhere around 24 because I realized I wasn't there to pal around with the guys. I was there to meet a young lady, and there was a better chance of meeting a young lady if I was more sober. You know, how else can you cut a cripple out of the herd, right? So, uh, I probably put alcohol in my drinks around 11 or 12 at night. Up until then, it was something that looked like alcohol but wasn't alcoholic because I didn't want to get drunk. You were going out to catch up with the guys. I was going there to get catched up with the girls.
Well, it was a dual mission, but here's the big difference that I can already tell between you and me at this age.
Yes.
You had confidence with women. I did not.
Yeah, well, you were making a shitload of money and reinventing the world before I even realized there was a world to reinvent.
Nothing ever felt like I was making any money because all of my friends had more than me.
Hold on a second. Look into this thing. Can you imagine this guy grew up without self-confidence? Look at this man. Listen to the accomplishments he's already had. You are self-confidence. You are the epitome of self-confidence. Why the hell didn't you have it when you were a kid?
Well, so I hit my growth spurt way late. I think I was 5'10" when I graduated high school.
Right.
And, at one point I was almost 300 pounds.
5'10", 300 pounds.
Well, no, not at the same time.
I can understand 5'10", 300 pounds not having self-confidence with girls.
I would say 5'10", 230, 240. And then as I grew up, I grew out as well.
How big are you now?
6'3", and I've got 2 herniated discs and a sciatic nerve that's being squished. So I haven't been able to work out in a couple months.
Not too much pickleball.
No, nothing right now.
All right. So we're done with now you're 24 years old. What's happening now?
So I'm at BrandsMart, and I can tell that things are happening inside BrandsMart that make it look like it's going under.
Okay.
Publicly, no one seemed concerned. It's just a staple. Had been there forever. The ownership had plenty of money if they wanted to keep it surviving.
But it wasn't being managed, and everybody was catching up to them, and their unique place in the marketplace wasn't so unique anymore.
Yeah, out of respect to family members that are still alive and part of the community, I won't.
You're not throwing them under.
Yeah, okay. Those were their decisions to make, not mine. But I know that at the time, the bank was going to come and close it all up, and customers' product that they had paid for was in that warehouse and labeled incorrectly. So I was calling customers saying, "Hey, I got to deliver your product," and they were saying, "But we're not going to be ready for it for another 2 months." And I'm like, "I don't know what to tell you. We're coming on Saturday to deliver it." And they're like, "What am I supposed to do with it?" I'm like, "Not my problem. Put it in my garage. Put it in the garage." And so we spent the weekend delivering all the product that we knew was paid for.
That's a stand-up thing to do.
And I made a lot of people mad,
right,
during that process.
And hopefully 2 months later they weren't so mad.
On Tuesday they weren't so mad. Okay. I got calls. Oh my gosh! Wow! I did not realize I went from hating you to loving you. Thank you. Right. And so, they said, "Well, what do I do? How do I get it installed?" I said, "Well, I know how to install it. I'll help you figure that out." And so I would go out and install it myself. And then some of the people who had lost their jobs when they shut the doors, I'd said, "Hey, I'll pay you hourly. Come out here and do this with me." And then they would say, "Okay, well, we trust you. My friend wanted something done." So I would do that. I made deals with Sony and Mitsubishi and whoever to get product to make that happen. And then
and you're 24, 25.
Yeah, 25, 26. And so I talked to one of the customers I had was an accountant.
Hold on a second. Brenda, have we ever met anybody who has fast track themselves consistently, step by step by step, as fast and as he has?
Not as fast. I
Right.
don't think it's fast.
Not as young, not as inexperienced, yet as professional.
Just call you inexperienced.
100%.
When he was
Still
25
accurate.
years, to compare him to other 25-year-old kids,
He's done,
what he's accomplished.
he's done amazing.
I know one person. We talked to one person. He owned 6 businesses when he was 19.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yes, you're right.
Joe Bazone, Mr. Good Sense, was a huge
Joe
entrepreneur. Right. And you met Joe.
Okay.
He was at the dinner that
Okay.
you and I spent time with. All right. So here you go.
I'm doing an accountant's house, and he takes a liking to me and takes me under his wing. He says, "Hey Ryan, these friends that you're helping with their systems that are giving you money,
Right.
those are called customers. Those friends that lost their job that you're helping them
Their
get
employees.
by, those are called employees. And you're going to need some more paperwork. You got a company here you own on your hands." So he helped me get all that set up and get the paperwork set up to
All right.
have a company.
And then you started specializing in this.
Yep. So
that was beginning of smart homes.
that was the beginning of this company. And now keep in mind, this is before the iPhone, the iPad,
Right.
smartphones existed.
I don't want to know who. I don't even want to know what city, unless you want to volunteer. What's the biggest job you've done dollar-wise? $250,000, $500,000, $5 million.
Yeah, right. A little above 4.
$4 million to go into somebody's house and make it smart.
Mhm.
I'm dumbfounded. I can't imagine that much technology that can go into a house.
But keep in mind, usually these are complexes, right? You've got the caretaker's house, you've got staff, you've got different wings, you've got
How
extreme
expensive?
levels of security.
So a guy who has $4 million worth of your service, is it a $8 million house, a $20 million house, a $50 million house,
25.
$25 million home?
I mean, there's a few of them, right? They're all kind of in that range.
How many $25 million homes you been in?
And it's not Jeff Bezos's house.
No. Of course not. His is a lot more expensive. How many $25 million homes have you been in? Worked in, been in?
Depending on how you define work, whether I was there for
Bidding.
a small scope or to do the whole thing.
Right.
But how many? I bet 30 or 40.
I don't think I've even driven by a $25 million house.
Well, keep in mind, you get the whole country, right? I mean, we've got
I
a branch in Boca
Look,
Raton,
I lived
Miami.
I lived in New York, Florida, California. I don't think I have driven by a $25 million house.
We've driven by a $25 million condo in New York, that's for sure.
But I didn't know it
No, he didn't know it.
because it was too far up in the air. Right. Oh, look, there's a 25 million. No, I never. Geez, Louise.
And, keep in mind too, like some of these, if it's 100 acres in Steamboat Springs, right?
I can't relate.
It's a property
I
value.
can't relate. You must be a gazillionaire. I mean, are you one of those?
I'm a worker.
Are you a billionaire?
Oh, there's a window washer there that day too. He's not a gazillionaire.
Wait. Are you a billionaire yet?
Not even kind of.
Okay. Wow. So, Jesus. And you had 300 employees at your height.
350, I think, was the top. Yeah.
How many offices?
18 locations.
Showrooms, warehouses, offices.
So all hybrid.
You must have been one of the biggest customers your vendors had for that specialty high-end stuff.
Yep. We were the largest with just about every major vendor.
You were the Rolls Royce of your industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no question. So we were 5 or 6 times the size of the second biggest competitor in the country.
Are you living in a $25 million house now?
No, because the way I did it is we did it through acquisition, and they all had ownership.
I love it. I love it.
So I didn't get greedy, and
Right.
I didn't have the money to buy them. So did
You
it
co-opt
equity
them.
ownership. Yeah.
Yeah, you co-opt them.
Started as a co-op, ended as an actual full merger.
All right. How long ago did you sell it? How long did you run it for?
Ran it well. So it took 5 years to kind of build that up and get it to the point where it's ready for sale.
Okay. Was
Then-
that your goal all along to sell it?
No, my original goal was, just like the genesis of the starting the company. There's these conventions, and you get together,
shows.
Trade show, and so the big one, there's a remote control company that did remote controls, and we were having problems with one of their remotes with the signals, and they said, you're the only one having that problem. We never heard of this. And so they had a happy hour mixer with all their dealers.
Right.
And I'm going around the room, and I think
You-
I find 12 other dealers having the exact same problem.
Right.
So we cornered him, and he was like, all right, what do you want? Some free product, a discount? I'm like, no,
Fix it.
I just want you to fix it. Like,
Right.
we figured out that we're all using the same channel on the same router, but it was the most popular router. So I'm like, you guys are going to have to figure this out. Right. And so they were grateful to that. So then I said, all right, guys, what else, and it's like, well, I'm doing Sony TVs, I'm doing LG TVs. And it's like, all right.
You set up a industry conference where all your competitors got together to coach up your manufacturers and vendors
Correct.
on how to fix their industry through the pushback of their customers, which was you, not the end user.
To socialization, and met with engineers, and then presented,
Beautiful.
socialized with engineers.
That's almost an oxymoron. Okay. So you built it up huge. I can't imagine. I really can't imagine the lifestyle that you were exposed to, because I'm sure if you've been in 30 homes that are worth $25 million, you've probably been on a boatload of private planes, a boatload of huge yachts, a boatload of fast and beautiful cars, beautiful people, smart people, a lot of glitterati's.
But keep in mind, I'm the help. So I've been around it all. There was a period of time where in my career, the majority of my travel was private jet.
Yeah, you don't look like
but I've never owned a private jet.
You don't look like the Gardner type to me.
I was able to, I could stand in a room with billionaires and hold my conversation, and then go back and grab the guys with the hammers and screwdrivers and get it done. I mean,
Okay.
So you'll like the story, which I think kind of exemplifies it. As you start to, get to know all these clients, it's a very intimate relationship with what we did, because you're involving alarm systems, camera systems. You're getting some phone calls that are, I think my kid was buying drugs on the back deck. Can we look at this, right? The cameras, and review it? Or, hey, I'm getting separated. We got to delete alarm codes for my soon to be ex-wife. With high profile people, where this information. And so when they put you in that situation and there's no leaks and nothing gets out, that trust gets built pretty strong.
Okay.
And then also just kind of, I used to have clients call me all the time, like, hey, I need to let this guy in. My aunt just got into town, and what's my garage code? So, it kind of had the keys to so anyway, you get pretty tight relationships, right? So here I am at this lunch, and everybody there is talking about, it's got a jet or private plane of some sort. And we're talking about the different pilots, because I know all that, a bunch of the pilots, and we're talking about fuel arrangements. We're talking about, service and the different services. And the entire lunch is literally just about private plane ownership. And I'm holding my own throughout the whole lunch. I'm contributing more than you would ever guess. Right.
Okay.
And that the check comes and everybody throws in their Amex Black card. And I get out my Southwest Visa. I said, nothing says you didn't belong at this lunch like trying to get A-list on Southwest.
They didn't pick your card, did they? So anyways, how many private jets you been on?
Well, I
Do
mean,
you still fly commercial?
you say jet, technically jet is different than a private plane, right?
Okay.
So I've been on a lot of Pilatuses and different sort of private planes that wouldn't be considered jets, but the
Lots.
theory of, right,
Right.
small
private.
8-seat or more,
Right.
somebody else is flying,
Right. 100.
30. Well,
Do
when
you-
I
do-
say most
do
of
you
my
fly-
travel,
do you
I have
still
certain
fly-
clients too that would fly me all over, right?
Do you fly private now, or do you fly commercial?
Only when you're buying. No, I fly. I fly
Southwest.
Southwest. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
it's not that I
You know
don't
what
want to. I'm just not there.
You know what I don't? You know who I met in Southwest? Sat next to Lamar Hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I've sat next to a couple of famous people on plane rides. Made some very good friends. All right. So you sold the business. What do you do now?
Sold that business, and I did the thing where I was getting very antsy, to buy stuff or to invest in stuff. So
You got a lot of juice.
I own a couple of companies that I shouldn't, because I was antsy and wanted to,
Well, what, are they legal?
100% legal.
Marijuana?
No, like
Strip
I own a
clubs?
limo company,
Strip clubs?
like a limousine company.
Oh, okay,
Like,
so-
I mean,
All
we're
right.
not-
Okay.
you're going dark fast.
I like that. Okay. So you have a limo service.
So, but then my financial advisor, my wealth manager,
Right.
who's the one that would say, I looked at this, I don't think you should do it.
After you did it or before you did it?
Usually before.
Right.
Didn't mean I listened any better,
Right.
but he was absolutely brilliant through the transition. He put the whole deal structure together. There were 15 different companies with 15 different states, 15 different tax codes.
Right.
And, we didn't know how to, and S Corps, LLCs,
Okay.
C Corps, right? And so nobody could figure out how to put it together, asset purchase or, equity. And so he actually looked over the tax codes for all 15 states and said, this would be the best strategy for everyone, including the private equity firm. And everybody said, yeah, you're right. And so after he did that, he wasn't my wealth manager. I was with another well-known firm here in town.
Okay.
And after he did that, I was like, I should probably be.
Yeah.
I've known him since college. He's my college buddy, right?
Right.
I always knew he was a genius, but
Right.
and I was like, all right. So I ended up going with him after he did that. He helped throughout the entire transition, just
Right.
brilliant. He was working for a firm and was doing 80% of the work and getting 20% of the pay.
Just
with
strike out on
with
your own.
ownership. Yep. So he decided to go off on his own and said, you know how to build companies, you know how to build a culture. So I'd like to do this with you.
So you're a partner with an accounting firm?
So wealth management firm.
Okay.
Yep. So went in with him and we rented a 5-person office on a 3-year lease to build this company.
Right.
And within 14 months, we had 10 people and crammed in 5 offices. And it's taken off like a rocket ship. So we just bought a building and we're going to grow that.
Okay.
And then Brittany's fitness clothing.
Let's talk about Brittany's fitness clothing.
That she is an amazing human being. Nicest person I've ever met in my entire life.
Your wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Will be.
How she will be your wife.
It's like you,
Right, right,
we're rounding up.
Right. Upgrading. So how many people can actually say that about there's let's talk about her business. What is she doing?
So she owns a women's fitness apparel company called Fitbrit.
Right.
And she was seeing that women's leggings and athletic wear were getting more and more expensive,
Right.
and they weren't designed to hold up, kind of the planned obsolescence. So
Okay.
you're paying 110, 120 bucks for a pair of leggings. And, originally they had these lifetime guarantees and now they're designed to be done in a year.
Yeah, that way they're obsolete. Boom, boom, you got to buy more.
and all kinds of flaws. Well, she grew up. Her father was a dressmaker and owned a women's dress shop, and
Really?
she would go on all these trips to New York and look at threads and fabrics and blends and
Right.
and so she knew all this stuff, and so she took that knowledge and her passion for
Design.
the design and came up with this clothing company. And so the product is, everyone who tries it says this is unbelievable.
Let's give it a plug.
So if you let me, not let me, of course you'd let me, but
No.
steering this thing, something cool just happened, and I think that's where the plug comes in.
Okay.
So one of the people that has fallen in love with the product is Maggie Witt, who's Bobby Witt's wife.
Junior.
Bobby Witt Jr.'s wife.
Wow.
So Maggie absolutely
Wow.
loves
Well,
the
for
product.
those of you who are not baseball fans or don't live in Kansas City metropolitan area, Bobby Witt Jr. is probably the best baseball player the Kansas City Royals have had since George Brett. I mean, he is going to be an absolute generational superstar. And his wife is his fiance's new best friend. And
Yeah, he was on the down to the top 3 players for MVP of the entire league.
right.
Yep. So, and then his wife Maggie absolutely loves the clothing, and so she and Brittany got together, and she wanted to do her own line, but she did not want her own clothing company, and she didn't want to white label it with her name. She actually wanted it to be FitBrit, but she wanted it to be her collection of FitBrit. So I think it's wonderful.
She doesn't want to put her name on it.
Her name's on it, but she didn't want to substitute the FitBrit name for her name.
So it's going to be a private. It's not a private label FitBrit.
It's the Maggie Witt collection by FitBrit.
Okay. All right.
Right. So
is that far along is that?
That just launched on Saturday.
Congratulations.
So we did a private event and had all the players' wives out there wearing it, supporting.
Bobby Jr. wasn't there.
He wasn't there. He was on the road.
He was playing baseball.
He was.
Have you met him?
Yes.
Nice guy.
Unbelievably nice. Down to earth. Just.
Have you met a lot of famous athletes?
I have.
How? Why? Besides, I mean,
well, a lot of them are clients, right?
But they don't have $25 million homes.
Well, we didn't exclusively do those.
So you did $5 million homes too.
Yeah.
But you're not doing $500,000 homes.
It's not that we don't do. It's that when it makes sense for the right product.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So
you're not being snobby about it. It's just right. It just might not fit for what your needs are or budget or something like that.
We do a designed system with a menu of products.
Okay.
And if you just want to buy one product at a time or one or two, you're probably doing it on yourself, and you don't have an engineer designing all of them to work.
Do you offer financing?
We don't.
I don't know if I can hire you to do anything around me. I mean, we might have to go financing here. Okay.
So Maggie Witt and Brittany, they just launched on Saturday. It's been a heck of a week because we had the launch event on Saturday, where we released the line, had all the models showing it off.
Right.
Every single model was a friend or family.
Okay.
Nobody hired, which I think people didn't realize that. And then once they did, it was, really cool, fantastic.
Some grandmas? Any grandma models?
No grandmas. No, they were all model-esque.
Okay.
Right. And then
what
on
are you saying
Wednesday,
about grandmas?
just wonderful things.
Okay.
And then on Wednesday, Maggie and Brittany were on the Great Day Kansas City show on Fox.
Okay.
Launching the line. And then Thursday, Maggie threw out the first pitch for the Royals game, and Bobby was the catcher.
How close to a strike zone was it?
It was a slider. Bobby told her ahead of time he wasn't diving for anything, so she better get it down the middle.
Right.
Yeah. But, it was from the pitcher's mound.
Not the girls' mound.
Nope.
From the boys'
Yep.
90 feet.
Yep. 90 feet. I think that's right. Yeah. So anyway, fitbrit.com, and then there's the Maggie Witt collection.
Let's give it a pitch.
fitbrit.com, and it's the Maggie Witt collection. But everything off that website is 100% designed by Brittany. Nothing is anybody else's product that's white labeled. So she has passion design behind everything.
How many SKUs?
Well, the thing is you've got extra small to 2X, and then you have every color.
How many colors?
So some of them have like up to 10 colors, right?
And how many different designs?
40.
You got to be crazy. You
Well-
got 40 different designs in all colors and all sizes.
Well, you have, let's say 6 or 7 different styles of leggings. Then you have some shorts, you have some skirts, you have sports bras, you have tops, you have a couple jackets,
All
right?
Okay. What Mother's Day's coming up. You might want to buy your girlfriend, your wife, your mother something nice. And you can go online to
Fitbrit.com.
fitbrit.com. What is it? What is the price for this stuff?
There are
Ranges.
yeah.
The
So I think the
leggings.
leggings are going to range from 40 to 120.
And what is, hold on. Brenda, how much do leggings usually cost?
20 to 50.
Okay, so these are much better quality leggings than most people will find.
The 20 to 50 that she's talking about is like kind of saying how much does a car cost,
Ah,
right?
right. So your Rolls Royce is priced at a Ford price.
Yes. Yep. The quality for what you get far exceeds. So our highest end product is going to be cheaper than Lululemon, but better quality.
I've never heard of Lulu, so there you go. But all right,
They're a big deal.
I've never been on a private plane.
I can't.
Never seen a $25 billion house. I mean,
I don't believe you've never been on a private plane.
once.
There you go. I love getting down to the truth.
Well, it was in a rainstorm. I kept my eyes closed the whole time. Anyway, because we thought we were going to die. We really did. So, but I know lots of people who private plane. Well, 3 of them.
Yeah.
Do you travel much
I mean, I traveled a lot
for work?
but
Are you still traveling for recreation?
for recreation, yeah. I mean,
Vacation?
yeah, vacation, and then sometimes you have to get out of town, so you pick
Cool
a
your
work,
jets.
you make a work trip happen. Yeah.
What do you do for recreation?
So I've got 5 kids,
Wait,
So-
5 kids.
so that's a lot of the recreation for me.
Any of them in jail?
No, I mean
Yet?
they're 8 to
Not yet.
13, so
Not yet.
we got any of them in jail. Yeah, the parent might have to be blamed there.
You know, it's funny. I think 6 to puberty is the greatest age for
Yeah.
kids
Yeah.
and to be a parent, because they're still, when you open the door to come home, they're still running, daddy, 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 and they jump into your arms, right? After puberty, it's a coin flip to see if maybe they want to, maybe they don't want to.
I got guesses, but it won't be 5 for 5. But I got some guesses on which I think it'll be a mixed bag. But yeah, you're right. You show up
So-
for school lunch and they're still.
What comes next for you? Do you still have mountains to climb?
I do the wealth management company. I would have told you I don't want to be in that anywhere near that industry. I don't want, just because it's not me, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's not
yeah.
engineering,
Are
it's
you-
not social, it's
are you-
not.
Are you a investor, a partner, a spectator, a participant?
I'm 50-50 partner, and my partner was like, you got to come into the office, and I started doing that more, and here's what I learned. As much as I love technology and everything like that,
Right.
the true joy that I got from that last company I built was not because of the technology. The true joy
Was helping people.
came from the culture of a company where people want to be around each other. The coworkers are their family, their friends. Work is a place that's safe.
Right.
They feel like a lot of them feel more safe and close to us than they do their own families. You know, siblings, not their wives, hopefully, but just seeing how close and tight everyone and how everyone is looking out for everyone and supports everyone, that sort of culture that gives people a sense of
Hold on a
purpose
second.
beyond just a career.
Right. Once again, where is this wealth management company?
It is AFE Private Wealth.
And say that a little slower so they can hear
AFE.
it. AFE,
What's the demographic of your listeners?
not your customers.
AFE Private Wealth, and it is 132nd in Metcalf, but we have customers across the country.
Okay.
But it's the same.
How much? Wait. How much do they have to have in assets for you to talk to them?
I should know this. Probably $500,000, I think.
Okay. So if they can't give you a $500,000 portfolio, lose the phone number, you're really not interested.
No, because so here's what is actually special about Ryan Forrester, the guy who started this company. The demographic in our wealth management company, the average age 49. The average age for the typical wealth advisor is 67. Right. And it's because he started getting clients when he saw potential, not when they had enough to make it worth his time.
Right.
And so that culture has never changed, never left. So if you're putting away $10 a year and you're at $180, then probably not a good fit. But I mean, if you're at $100,000 and, you know, you're just now getting out of med school debt or you know, something like that, but I think that in the industry, I've seen a ton of laziness where they just put you in a portfolio and they say, we're done.
So tariffs, is that going to affect your world?
Temporarily, everything has these exciting, but we're not day traders. We're long haul. So no,
Give me 3 industries you'd want to recommend to the world as to where to put their money.
Oh, wrong guy to ask that.
I mean, AI.
Yeah, but here's the thing with, so I don't have any recommendations, right?
Of course not. You're not licensed.
I know there's private things that we're doing right now with some oil wells and some other things that are, you know, it's the timing meets the opportunity set up, and I know we have that kind of stuff.
Crip.
But anything that anybody's going to recommend is, you know, the valuation is already based on speculation anyway.
Okay.
So everything's based on speculation. So to add speculation on top of speculation for someone
I'm just giving you an opportunity to pitch.
And you know what? I don't sell, and I
know.
don't have any passion behind something somebody should do.
Okay. Do your customers look for a 4% return, an 8% return, a 12% return on their investment? What are they looking for? What should be a standard?
I don't have that answer, and I think there's regulatory stuff that says you're not supposed to promise that.
Not promise. I'm not asking for.
I think my experience has been 12 for what I have in what they're doing.
Wow.
Over long term, right?
Because
I think
I
people
get
say
12% a year for 20 years, I'm pretty effing happy.
Yeah. So that's my personal experience.
Right. Okay. What comes next? Do you have any other mountains to climb?
I've been doing a lot of charity stuff. I mean, I've always been, you know, trying to do as much as I can.
Okay.
But one of the neat things, so I've worked with the Chiefs for years on player engagement and helping the athletes get involved in the community, be productive, find things to do. You know, encouraging them to show up at events and be part of the community and take action. And so that relationship has been wonderful and very exciting. I think as a fan, there's nothing that I can do with the Chiefs to change their product.
Right.
I can't make the players any better on the field. I can't. So I try and focus on what can I do off the field so that they have clarity of mind on the field. So one of the things that I do with them is reviewing business plans and pitches they get, because they're constantly being swarmed, even by family and friends, on you should
Especially
invest in
family and
this.
friends.
Yep. And so kind of looking at it and saying,
Entourages.
yeah, well, here's the problem with this, or, hey, $2 million for a t-shirt company. Great. The top line t-shirt printer is 20 grand, right? You buy that, you start selling those shirts, and then you take those profits and you buy another printer.
Right.
You don't need $2 million day one to start up a t-shirt company, right? So helping them make sure that they don't end up in a bad situation.
You got now with Bobby, you probably go into the Royals too.
Yeah, everything that I've done has been organic.
Well, you're not going to say, Bobby, since your wife is helping my wife with the clothing line, why don't you help me get more business from my wealth management or my consulting business with some of your buddies in the clubhouse? You're not going to have that conversation.
Right.
But if you and he are sitting there having a cold beer, he might ask, what do you do for a living? And you tell him, and he says, I got somebody that needs to talk to you.
There's always those opportunities. I actually stray away from those conversations with those guys to keep any possible conflict of interest separated. To my detriment, I've had a few players just tell me, like, no, he will take me.
Really?
Yeah, but I just...
Do you charge by the hour? Do you charge by the
I don't charge.
Free consulting?
It is just something I do. I started doing it when BJ Stabler was director of player development and engagement 12, 13 years ago.
So I have a propensity for trying to help small business people. And I get involved. I have a package right now that if you want me to mentor you, I charge $100 a week. And 10% when you sell the company. If you never sell the company, you don't owe me anything but $100 a week.
Mm-hmm.
But if I help you build a company that can be sold,
Mm-hmm.
I want my slice.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, I'll work cheaper than anybody else will work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's my formula. $100 a week plus 10% of the sale.
I love that. I love that. In this particular case, in lieu of pay, what I get out of it is I'm able, when I'm helping others with their events, I'm able to get some of these players to show up. And so they're giving back to me by showing up at your charity event. Hey, do me this favor. I did this for you. You do this for me. Come to a charity event.
What a
support.
great segue to becoming a better you. And the foundation that is near and dear to my heart that we would love. Brenda, would you like to get Ryan more involved with BTBY?
Absolutely.
There you go. We're gonna invite you to become one of us. We're gonna give you an opportunity to become a better you by helping other people, serving our community. What say you?
Of course I'll help.
Was that easy? Yeah, I mean, but hold on, let me twist the arm a little bit. All right. Before we say goodbye, is there anything you would like to say to all 44 people who are watching this show?
That's a fantastic audience. Thank God you didn't tell me that at the beginning of the show. I would have been so nervous. I would have clammed up right away.
I don't think any of them are family or friends. They're all strangers.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
When does this air?
Brenda's going to produce it and edit, and it'll probably be available in a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to ask you, do you have a social media site? Yes, you do. Of course you do. You'll
something.
Yeah, you'll have something. Perhaps you'll re-put it on your something site so that other people can get a background of who you are and the challenges and your great client. Yeah, your story is amazing. I mean, you are living the American dream. I didn't hear one slip. I didn't hear one fall. I didn't hear one challenge unmet. You have just consistently put your ladder against the right wall and consistently got to that top of the wall, pivoted, turned, did it again, pivot, turn, did it again. And
I think it's important to note there are those. It's just getting back up. It's just
yeah,
right. You know, I mean,
getting back.
everybody falls off the ladder.
Yep.
Yep. So
Right. Thank you very,
thank
much.
you.
Really
Thank you.
enjoyed